Galdino, what the hell are you doing? Jealous that I can grab this mighty and domineering warship? Buggy ripped off the liquid candle sticking to his face, his teeth turned into serrated teeth, and spittle stars continued to spew out of it. Okay, Buggy, you still have the face to say it? Thinking of some of the rewards that were swept away by Buggy after completing the Weevil recruitment mission, Mr. 3 was furious. I ask you, have you felt a sudden increase in power recently? Buggy directly slapped the clown face. So what, it's none of your business. Don't change the subject of Lao Su. What does it mean to throw a candle to Lao Su's face? Mr. 3 pushed back with his face without showing weakness. God is not my business. That is what Lao Su won for you with love and prayer. What? Buggy suddenly widened his eyes and scolded, did you get kicked by a donkey in the forehead? You can get this kind of thing by praying with love. Then please pray for me quickly, and let Lao Su ascend to the 4th Emperor tomorrow. Throne. Mr. 3 spread his hands and said, I'm praying now that you die like a piece of shit. Recruit a guy who's a slap in the face of Weevil. What's the face of showing off a broken warship to me? I even got an entire island. Woolen cloth. Speaking of this, the anger in Buggy's eyes immediately rushed up, and he directly split his 2 palms to grab Mr. 3. Grandma, I'm so embarrassed to mention this. I used your broken kit, and I was almost hacked to death by Weevil, do you know that? Mr. 3 also threw a candle ring around Buggy's neck, and replied, if you were greedy for money, and acted obediently according to my tips, would you have gotten yourself into trouble? You are the only one who was cut down in the whole world. I was almost cut off by Qiwuhai fruit, and you didn't even mention it. Buggy, who was wrapped around his neck, blushed and continued to increase the strength of his hands. Who did you kill me? Do you know how scared I was when the Vice Admiral drove the warship over? You still have Hancock to protect you, I have it, Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of Hawkeye and Weevil coming from the warship behind. Buggy directly split off a foot and kicked Mr. 3's abdomen. He said viciously, in short, kill me Mr. 3, clown rocket launcher. Okay, little red nose, are you really here? Eat Lao Su a candle and warhammer. Fractured, clown flying blade, candle champion cup. Cut apart, spin pancakes. In the blink of an eye, the 2 people in the heated quarrel scuffled together, from the left side of the pirate ship deck to the right side, and then from the right side to the left side. Wax splatters, meat pieces are separated, and the scene is very anxious. Crocodile, who gave up his position and hid in the corner, silently wiped off the candle liquid that had splashed on his face. Recalling the powerful Mr. 3 when he burst out with domineering, and thinking about the brutal and insidious clown Buggy in his memory, Crocodile only felt that the scene in front of him met the one he expected, as if. It's a far cry. Hancock, you joined the Buggy pirates before me, have they always been like this? Hancock looked at Mr. 3 and Buggy who were scrambling into a ball. After a while, he nodded with certainty. The first time I saw the concubine, I had the same expression as you. Silent. Crocodile smoked a cigar silently, his coat fluttering in the weak sea breeze behind his back, like his mood at the moment. Why, suddenly there is an illusion in my heart that I am on a pirate ship. Wait, is it an illusion? While wondering, a calm and powerful voice came from the side. Long time no see since the top of the war, Crocodile, Empress. I don't know when, the eagle eye in a handsome black cloak has come close. Oh? Hawkeye Mihawk, sassy ignores Da. Crocodile put away many emotions in his heart, and took a cigar with a calm expression. It's unbelievable that a man as powerful as you would be recruited to join the Buggy Clown Pirates? His voice was full of surprise. Just an alliance for the purpose of eliminating trouble. Hawkeye noticed the word, also, in Crocodile's words, it's you. When you came, I heard that they were recruiting new and old Shicibukai. I didn't expect that you would really give up your original name. As the older generation of Shicibukai who have been with each other for a long time, Hawkeye is very aware of the temperament and character of Crocodile and Hancock. So even he, who has always been calm and expressionless, couldn't help but show a look of shock at this time. Hearing that Hawkeye and Buggy are allied, Crocodile was stunned for a moment, and then showed a relieved expression. Haha, because of this pirate group, it is possible to realize my ambition. Hancock also nodded lightly, affirming, my concubine felt the same way, and acted accordingly. Is that so? Hawkeye pondered for a while, and his sharp eagle-like pupils turned slightly, landing on Buggy and Mr. 3. It turns out that not only the Straw Hat Boy, but the Buggy Pirates also have the most terrifying power in this sea? Crocodile leaned against the edge of the cabin with his arms folded, and asked casually, how about Hawkeye, do you want to join the Buggy Pirates as well? Hearing this, Hancock's attention shifted and fell on Hawkeye. Again, they, who are both senior Qiwuhai, know each other's strengths and temperament very well. If Hawkeye is willing to join the Buggy Pirates, then in terms of combat power, their comprehensive combat power is almost at the apex of this sea. After a few seconds of silence, Hawkeye spread his hands and replied, "Forget it, I don't have such plans for the time being." Okay. Crocodile and Hancock didn't force it. Mr. 3 has already analyzed it just now. Hawkeye's joining the Buggy Clown Pirates at this stage does have considerable drawbacks, and they all agree with this statement. The three fell into a brief silence, but soon, the cry from the cabin broke the silence. "Okay, brother 3, fuck him, beautiful candle home run." Looking up, I saw Ayasha in black and long shorts waving her fists and looking excited. At a certain Buggy Express mercenary group meeting, she had seen Buggy himself from a distance. Knowing that the scuffle with Brother 3 at this time is the captain of the Buggy Pirates, the boss of the Buggy Express mercenary organization. But even so, it can't resist the girl's determination and will to cheer for the idol. The unusually bulging cheering sound successfully attracted the attention of the audience, and even Buggy, whose mouth was full of candle liquid, was startled and stopped putting his torn feet into Mr. 3's mouth. Okay. He separated his head from his neck and slowly floated in front of Ayasha. The ferocious clown's blushing nose and sinister eyes, matched with the strange picture of his head floating in the air, brought a great sense of oppression to Ayasha in an instant. Jong. Ayasha subconsciously held the black scabbard around her waist and moved her thumb to reveal a half-edged edge. Buggy's head, hovering in midair, stared at Ayasha's face for a few seconds. Although it was a bit familiar, but after he couldn't figure out who it was, Buggy, who was full of question marks, simply spoke directly. "Who are you? There's nothing wrong with your brain, you actually cheer for a wretched guy like 3. This bastard Galtino is just going out, how can there be such a sexy and beautiful beauty supporter? Well, full of envy and jealousy. My name is Ayasa, and I'm the commissioner of the Buggy Express mercenary organization." Ayasha did not hesitate in the face of the ferocious Captain Buggy. Also, Brother 3 is not a wretched guy. Oh. I remember. Hearing the Buggy Express commissioner, Buggy, who was constipated, suddenly realized. It seems that at a previous dispatch meeting, he did see this guy. He re-examined Ayasha and said as a matter of course, "It turns out that, then it is understandable. You came here with 3 just to ask me for an autograph, right?" While speaking, Buggy moved his consciousness slightly and summoned the body parts hanging on Mr. 3's body. Then, from the Dahongpao, he took out a pen and a piece of white paper. This scene happened to be seen by the younger brothers on the fence of the naval warship. The ferocious-looking little brothers suddenly boiled, standing there screaming. My God! What does Captain Buggy mean? He actually wants to send his autograph? No, 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 I don't have dazzling eyes. How lucky is that bastard woman? Damn, I really want Captain Buggy's autograph. This is a certificate of approval from a powerhouse at the same level as the white-bearded and red-haired man. The arrival of the atmosphere team made the quiet deck become lively and noisy again. Under the gleaming eyes of many of the younger brothers, Buggy was quick-witted and signed his name on the white paper. I don't give your autograph casually. For the sake of finding it from a long way, I will give it to you with great mercy. This is the supreme honor of the Buggy Pirates. Responding to him, it was Ayasha with a cold look of disgust. Don't. If it was the autograph of Brother 3, the Cliff would have to take it carefully and collect it, but the captain of the red-nosed captain in front of him should forget it. It's too dirty to wipe your butt. Huh? Actually, the autograph of Captain Buggy was rejected? The envy-eyed younger brothers exploded the pot. Buggy, who is full of confidence, even widened his eyes. Thinking that he heard it wrong, he quickly shook the autograph in his hand. You have figured it out clearly. This is my, Captain Buggy's autograph. No, Ayasha's attitude remained unshakable, and she didn't even turn her head to look at the hot-eyed signature. When the younger brothers saw this, they fell into one piece, and their faces were full of exaggerated disbelief. Actually rejected Captain Buggy's autograph twice. Damn, how ignorant that woman is, and many more. Suddenly, a younger brother with a scar on his head suddenly shrank his pupils, narrowed his eyes, and stared at Ayasha on the cabin. Demon-like bright red short hair, cold blue eyes, leather pants with different lengths of trousers, and that slender black long knife. The little brother's forehead oozes a little bit of cold sweat, and his voice is deeply shocked. This guy, is the malicious fruit ability, the Witch of Evil, Hatfeli Ayasha. Witch of Evil? The buddy next to him scratched his head. Is it very famous? You haven't heard of this name much? It's normal to have never heard of her. After all, there has been no news about her in recent years. But a few years ago, she was alone and destroyed a large pirate group with a bounty of more than 100 million. What? As soon as these words came out, the rest of the younger brothers were shocked, and their eyes looking at Ayasha became extremely fearful. Although their average bounty is more than 100 million, most of them are concentrated between 100 to 500 million. Compared with 100 million pirates, there is naturally a certain gap. What's more, it was not one or two people who perished, but the entire pirate group. I didn't expect that this woman with a rather abnormal mental state would have such a good record. The crocodile eyeball in the corner turned and landed on Daz Bonus next to him. Daz, it's not too bad for you to be suppressed by such a guy. Daz Bonus swallowed and nodded silently. Actually, when I met, I was slashed by this guy. He wanted to be so frank, but after thinking about it, it was still too embarrassing, so he kept silent. As for Mr. 3 and Hancock, who knew about Ayasha's past, they acted much calmer. Ayasha does have such strength. What did you say? But Buggy, who was floating in the air, was taken aback. He had never heard that there would be such a powerful and terrifying special commissioner in his Buggy Express. Captain Buggy, stop pretending, you can't hide it. Can you tell us how many terrifying monsters like Ayasha are hidden in our Buggy Express mercenary group? It must be a lot, right? Damn it. No wonder Captain Buggy is reluctant to sign an autograph. It turns out that we don't deserve it. A younger brother covered his face and cried bitterly. Then he said firmly, you can rest assured, Captain Buggy, we will definitely work hard to become stronger, and then one day in the future, I will ask you for an autograph. Yes. We will follow to the death, and risk our lives to cultivate in order to get your autograph. In an instant, the younger brothers were excited. Aha, ahaha, it's really bad, you found out. From the beginning, Buggy's face was confused, to the middle of the boat, and now, he burst into an extremely arrogant laughter without blushing. Yes, it's such little people. I want Lao Su's autograph, then become stronger without even taking your life. Seeing that Captain Buggy was no longer concealing, the expressions in the eyes of the younger brothers became more determined. Captain Buggy. Just then, an arm sticks out from the side and hooks Buggy's neck. Mr. 3 pulled Buggy, whose face was full of ecstasy, to the corner, and kept his angry voice to a minimum. Your mother's dog, Buggy. I thought you would definitely appoint a reliable commissioner to connect with me, sister, feelings you don't even know him. Recalling that the first time he met Ayasha, he didn't have any doubts because of his trust in Buggy, and Mr. 3 felt a kind of sadness that he made a wrong payment. Buggy frowned and said as a matter of course, is there any good arrangement for such a trivial matter? I just explained it to Cabbage from the person in charge. Mr. 3 was furious. Co-authoring Lao Su's life is a trivial matter, right? Oh 3, don't be so angry, this result is not very good. Buggy knew that he was wrong, so he didn't open his mouth and spray like just now, but patted Mr. 3 on the shoulder and smiled. Not only did he successfully recruit Crocodile, but he also accidentally discovered the powerful combat power of the Witch of Evil. Mr. 3. Silent. You are overbearing and lucky, I won't force you. Thinking about it carefully, being able to meet Ayasha at the three-pillar roundabout is really a bit of an inexplicable magical fate. Perhaps, this is the so-called +S, lucky buff of the Buggy Camp. This is the end of the short-lived farce. Next, of course, is the welcome ceremony for the new members. Buggy put away the sullenness on his face and walked to Crocodile with a serious look. When he found Mr. 3 and the others on the naval ship just now, he had already noticed Old Sand and Dazbonus on the ship. Although it is extremely unreal just thinking about it, Mr. 3 has shown quite terrifying operations and planning since recruiting the female Emperor Hancock. And he, from the beginning of thinking that Mr. 3 is going to run ahead of time, gradually turned into trust. Mr. 3, this guy is like a sudden enlightenment, and he exudes confidence. Long time no see, then, you are very welcome to join, Crocodile. Buggy took the initiative to extend his palm to Crocodile. Seeing this, Crocodile's eyes flickered slightly, but he still reached out and held Buggy together. Buggy, I've heard something amazing. The corners of his mouth, biting the big cigar, rose slightly, wanton and arrogant, achieving maritime dominance and overthrowing the rule of the Tianlong people. How dare you think? Hearing this, Buggy the Clown was stunned for a moment, then squeezed out an understatement smile and admitted, "Ahahaha, as I expected, 3 still mentioned this to you." Deep in my heart, I was madly complaining, damn Mr. 3, did you still use this trick to fool Crocodile in? Did he ever think about it, how tragic it would be if we couldn't hold back and reveal our true colors? Just as he was worried, Crocodile's words suddenly changed. Speaking of which, if I remember correctly, You seem to still owe me a lot of debt, Captain Buggy the Clown. The Buggy Express mercenary group once cooperated with Crocodile in the New World. For some reason, Buggy owed Crocodile a lot of money. When Buggy heard this, the smile on his face couldn't hold back. Aha, ahaha, this, it will be paid back, but it will take a little time. I will definitely not be able to run after you join. Hearing what he said, Crocodile snorted coldly, but he was no longer embarrassed. Oh, the younger brothers screamed in excitement. They had heard about the great goal of Captain Buggy from Hancock before, and they were still crazy when they heard it again. Overthrow the rule of the Tianlong people. Hawkeye was obviously taken aback, and sighed from the bottom of his heart, admirable courage. Yahahaha. So you're eyeing the heavenly gold of the Tianlong people, Buggy. The sharp old woman's voice came from the rear, and Miss Buggin was standing on the shoulders of the tall Weevil. She and Buggy are both mercenary people, so it is quickly taken for granted that Buggy is interested in the innumerable wealth of the dragon people. As for the risk that this behavior needs to take, hee. Her pupils hidden under the lace sunglasses flickered slightly, and she didn't know what kind of sinister plan she was planning. Mr. 3 raised his head and glanced at Weevil, who was holding a knife, and could sense the brutality and ferocity lurking in the depths from his cute eyes. Is this Bai Yi, who claims to have the power of Whitebeard's youth? The sense of oppression is indeed extraordinary. Mr. 3 hesitated for a while, and after serious thought, he walked up to him slowly and took the initiative to say hello to Weevil. You are the new Edward Weevil who joined us, right? You really look mighty and domineering. I'm Mr. 3 of the Buggy Pirates. According to the style of our Buggy Pirates, new partners have to call me third brother, look. Weevil, who had a foolish look on his face, blinked and blurted out the words without the slightest hesitation. Hello, third brother, Mr. 3, who instinctively took a defensive stance, silent. Ha ha ha. Well, very nice, at last. Finally got this long-lost third brother. Idiot, isn't it? Just call when they ask you to. Miss Buggin hated Tai for unsuccessfully raising her foot and kicking Weevil's head. Weevil frowned, pointed his finger at Mr. 3, and said aggrieved, but Mom, he praised me for my mighty and domineering. Stupid pigs. We are new members. If we don't behave a little bit more lofty, we will be ridden on the head another day. Miss Buggin scolded angrily. I was just about to say something harsh to Mr. 3, but when I turned around, I realized that Mr. 3 had already turned around and left, not giving myself the slightest chance to speak. Damn Mr. 3. The old woman gritted her teeth angrily. Although it was a surrender driven by interests and situations, in the final analysis, they are now the crew of the Clown Buggy Pirates, and they are not as reckless as they used to be before they make a fortune. On the other hand, Mr. 3, who successfully received a third brother, was in a happy mood and walked briskly in front of Hawkeye. Hawkeye, I'm Mr. 3, according to the rules of the Buggy Pirates, I. Jung. Before the words were finished, the expressionless Hawkeye silently raised his hand and held the hilt of the cross-black saber knight behind him. I express the most lofty welcome to your allies. Mr. 3's mouth twitched, and he immediately dismissed the words of death, and reached out to Hawkeye. Galdino, long time no see, your courage is amazing. Hawkeye shook hands with Mr. 3, his eyes were slightly condensed, and he gave an evaluation that he did not give when he met Buggy. Just by looking at each other, he can capture a lot of information. Mr. 3 was shocked. As expected of the world's #1 swordsman, this intuition is truly terrifying. He sighed in his heart. So far, the greeting link has been safely passed. Except for Weevil and Miss Buggin, most of the people here are old acquaintances, and the atmosphere of getting along is naturally not too embarrassing, and they chatted quickly. Under the order of Captain Buggy, the pirate boys quickly set sail and drove the pirate ship to Qiwuhai, Bali. As for the Navy warships that were snatched up, it is still impossible to return them. Naturally, they have to be handed over to the professionals of Buggy Express to build and refit. When everyone successfully arrived at the Qiwuhai Bali base camp, the sunset in the distance just fell on the mountain, and the night gradually enveloped the earth. It was too late, and he was running all the way. Mr. 3 decided to take a night's rest, and discuss the next action target of the Buggy Pirates with everyone tomorrow. With the addition of Hawkeye, an unexpected ally, he had to make some adjustments to the plan he had prepared. The New World, the naval headquarters, the solemn office of the Marshal. Admiral Sakazuki, dressed in the cloak of justice, sat at his desk, smoking a cigarette gloomily. In front of him, there is information sent back by CP0 lurking on the ghost island of Wano country. Among the densely packed text, A photo of a person surrounded by white flames, covering his face and looking up and laughing, stands out. The strange posture, the awakening of the mysterious fruit. I didn't expect that the alliance between Kaido and Auntie would be broken by the supernova kid. Sakazuki exuded a hot breath all over his body, as if to express his restless heart at this moment. In just 2 years, the former kid has grown to this point. If I knew earlier, when the war was on top, I should have left him completely without any scruples. And also, feeling remorse, Sakazuki turned to look at the information placed on the other side, his eyes flashing. Even the admiral, who could always keep his calm no matter what the situation, showed an extremely troublesome expression at this time. Buggy, the captain of the clown buggy pirates, united Hawkeye and Weevil, and fought fiercely with the SSG troops led by Lieutenant General Jakes in the waters around the Les Cardos Islands, destroying the SSG, seriously injuring Jakes, and stealing the warship. On the other hand, Galtino, the core cadre of the buggy pirates, together with Boyahan Cook, who had just joined the buggy pirates, took Crocodile away and occupied the three-pillar roundabout. Compared with the strange form of drafting Luffy's awakening, Sakazuki obviously has more headaches for the current buggy pirates. After all, their purpose is already very obvious, that is, the old and new Qiwuhai will be abolished, all gathered under their own banner. What those guys have is not only powerful combat power, but also intricate underground forces and countless invisible allies. And these dangerous people who are just picked out and can stir up the situation, all willingly joined the buggy pirates. The buggy pirates, who will be completely formed in the future, will become one of the most difficult enemies of the Navy and the world government. Thinking of the meeting on the determination of the new 4 emperors held in the world government just now, the expression on Sakazuki's face became more and more gloomy, and he slammed a punch on the desk. What shit, the new 4 emperors, these damn pirates, one day, this old man will absolutely kill you all. Whoosh. The large smoke in his mouth was burnt out by the hot magma temperature, and turned into soot flying in the wind. The end of the old era and the opening of the new era, the world pattern is destined to usher in a big reshuffle gradually driven by the gear of fate. This morning, when the sun shines through the night, somewhere in the sky, the base of the World Economic News. President. The stern warning just sent by the 5 old stars requires us to stop printing immediately until the photo of the Straw Hat Boy and the misleading information about the clown buggy gathering Shicibukai and recruiting powerful people to the world have been completely revised. After that, you can turn it on again. The news staff hurried into the president's office. Standing in front of him, who looked flustered, was the boss of the news agency, Morgans, with the appearance of an eagle. Morgans turned a deaf ear to the threat of the 5 old stars of the world government, holding the fist of the eagle's wings with excitement. When the old king is pulled down from the altar, a new dynasty must emerge as the times require. Look at this peculiar shape that is enough to shock the world. Look at the buggy pirates who have completed the feat of gathering several Shichibukai. Such news that information has exploded, such a drastic change that is enough to shake the world pattern. It should be passed on, everywhere in the world. The more Morgan spoke, the more excited he became, his sharp eyes bursting with endless madness and passion. Since the world government knows that it can't hide the facts, and chooses to announce the new 4 emperors, then they should have plans to bear all the risks and consequences. 5 old stars. What the hell, cut off the communication with me over there, and stamp it like this, and stamp it desperately. The staff waiting for the order was stunned for a moment, then immediately nodded and saluted. Yes, understood. Under the rapid spread of the newspaper delivery seagulls, countless newspapers printed with the new shapes of Straw Hat Luffy and Buggy the Clown announced to the world the birth of the 2 new 4 emperors in an unprecedented way. Meanwhile, the home base of the Buggy Clown Pirates, Kalai Bali. Under the leadership of Captain Buggy, all the officers of the Buggy Pirates had their first all-hands meeting. Among them are old members such as Arita, as well as new cadres such as Hancock, Crocodile, Weevil, etc. Of course, there is also Hawkeye Mihawk, who is present as an ally of the Alliance. It is said that Buggy is leading, but in fact, as the captain, he only plays the role of convening staff. The specific action plan is explained by Mr. 3, the recognized general staff of the Buggy Pirates. Through this successful recruitment of Crocodile and the previous recruitment of Hancock, Mr. 3's image of a wise general has been established in the pirate group, and no one will question his monster-like mind. Even Arita and others who knew him well, after a difficult and complicated ideological struggle, finally accepted the fact. Lao 3, who has always been greedy for life and fear of death and insidious and cunning, has really become stable. Since you, like Captain Buggy, believe in your judgment on the situation, then I will say it directly. Mr. 3 raised his hand and pushed the goggles on the bridge of his nose, his eyes swept across the crowd without any timidity. If nothing else, our next target, or recruiting target, is Doflamingo in the advancing city. As soon as these words came out, a stone stirred up 1,000 waves. Hancock and Crocodile, who knew this target in advance, were fine, but most of the people, including Buggy, changed their faces drastically. The root cause of surprise is naturally not Doflamingo, who is famous for his unruly and cold-blooded nature, but the place where he is, which is too dangerous. The deep-sea prison Advanced City is the most heavily guarded and highest-level place in the entire Navy. Not to mention that the Advanced City is located in a dangerous sea current, backed by the G1 branch of the Navy in the Judicial Island. It is difficult to approach, evacuate, etc. in ordinary ways. Just the Deputy Director Magellan, who has been guarding it all the year round, is an insurmountable gap, and you will die if you encounter it. The impeccable copper and iron walls, the ultimate abyss and hell in the world. This is the evaluation of the world for the advancing city. To save people from such a place is more difficult than going to the sky. Hehe, I heard right, Mr. 3, that's the advanced city, not some abandoned little prison. Miss Buggin, who was sitting on Weevil's shoulders, was the first to question, is it necessary to take such a big risk for a mere Doflamingo? There was a deep sarcasm in his voice. As she had told Weevil earlier, she was declaring her status as a newcomer. For example, Hawkeye Crocodile and others, although they did not express their position, but from their silence, they can also feel their doubts about this aspect. No way, this place is really special. Faced with this kind of doubt, Mr. 3 is naturally well prepared. Because of recruiting Doflamingo, my strength can instantly soar, surpassing the top of the pirates. This kind of real purpose is definitely impossible to say. After pondering for a while, after organizing the language, Mr. 3 said slowly, just a Ming brother, naturally we don't need to take such a big risk, but the underground forces behind Doflamingo and the gun business are quite a big deal. Fat. If we combine our existing mercenary business with Buggy Express, we can control the entire underground world in a very short period of time. By then, the comprehensive combat power and scale of the Buggy Pirates will develop to an unprecedented peak. All the people present were old fritters who had been in the world of pirates for decades. Ordinary fooling would definitely not work, and it would be impractical to draw a big cake. But because of this, Mr. 3 is more convincing by using Doflamingo's own value as his rhetoric. The energy of the dark world and the underground forces is so great that these old fritters simply don't know too much. Of course, the premise is that Doflamingo can make this kind of thing a reality. After all, if it can really be done, the old man won't say anything, but Mr. 3. Miss Buggin paused and stared at Mr. 3 with her old eyes hidden in lace sunglasses. Don't you know the relationship between Brother Du Flaming and Kaido of the Four Emperors and Beasts? They already have an extremely close cooperative relationship. Even Doflamingo has to look at Kaido's face. Why do you think Doflamingo will choose us after he is released from prison? Or let me put it more clearly, if this kind of blatantly poaching for business, if it provokes Kaido's wrath, who should resist? Who should be responsible? Are you, Mr. 3? With such an aggressive posture, Mr. 3, who has always been easygoing, narrowed his eyes slightly. As a traveler who has mastered the direction of the plot, he doesn't have to think about it. The Straw Hat Boy who awakened the Nika form will definitely defeat Kaido, and the Beast Pirates are destined to completely collapse and disintegrate in the Onishima War. But, obviously, the words, Kaido the Beast was defeated by the Straw Hat Boy, sounds like a fantasy, and as of now, it is completely unconvincing. Behind Mr. 3, standing in the corner of the conference room, Ayasha, who was expressionless the whole time, quietly put her palm on the handle of the long black knife around her waist. There are no sinister and cruel thoughts, she just simply wanted to stab the old woman. Facing Miss Buggin's aggressive gaze, Mr. 3 smiled indifferently and looked confident. Originally, he did not expect to persuade everyone present by virtue of the underground forces. Just as he was about to speak, a loud noise suddenly erupted in the silent conference room. I saw Buggy, who had been silent for a long time, raised his hand and slapped the table sharply before speaking. It's just Kaido of the Beasts, so what if I'm robbing him of his business? If his mother dares to come to trouble our Buggy Pirates, I'll definitely let him eat and walk around. In the underground world, who is afraid of whom? Besides, with Kaido's bad-looking face, maybe it's time for someone to rip out their homes in the next 2 days. What's there to be concerned about? It's true that he often fights with 3, and it's natural to be greedy for life and fear of death, but these are not the reasons for him to continue to be silent. She's just a bad old woman with Weevil light. Why dare to be the third child of Yin and Yang here? The veteran cadres such as Kabaji Moki, who have always been attentive, also looked serious at this moment, and there was an imperceptible killing intent in the depths of their eyes. If it was in private, they would definitely complain about Buggy's incomparably hard-hearted words and deeds, and even ridicule him for his don't kill words and deeds. But it's different now, because what Buggy is maintaining at this time is Brother 3. They can see what Mr. 3 has been doing these days. Whether it's Hancock or Crocodile, all of them were won by him at the risk of his own life, in order to strengthen their already weak team. Usually it's okay to hurt each other, but if outsiders want to target Brother 3, they will definitely make her die very ugly. The sudden arrogance combined with Buggy's handsome clown profile, successfully shocked Miss Buggin. The 100 Beast Pirates are indeed very strong, but this name alone is not enough to make the concubine feel fearful. Hancock supported his cheek with one hand, and his indifferent voice revealed absolute confidence. The strongest creature in the world, Hihi, I am not afraid of Crocodile. Crocodile also expressed his true thoughts. They are all arrogant, even if Kaido himself comes, he will not bow down, let alone a mere name. Of course, aside from themselves, they followed Buggy and spoke out of recognition of Mr. 3's strength and potential. In just a few days, the image of the original body in the eyes of other people has been changed. In a sense, this is what even Mr. 3 himself has not discovered, the charm of his own personality. Don't worry, if Kaido really wants to trouble you, I, as an ally, will not stand by and watch. Hawkeye, who also holds the title of World's Strongest, spoke slowly, which completely blocked Mrs. thoughts of continuing to do things. Since you all have no problem, the old man has nothing to say. Miss Buggin, who knew that he should provoke public anger if he continued, snorted coldly. At the same time, I also secretly weighed Mr. 3's status in the Clown Buggy Pirates. I thought it was just an ordinary cadre with a little bit of IQ, but now it seems that he is like the second in command of the Buggy Pirates. Miss Buggin, who has been in the pirate world for decades, is not stupid. The current Clown Buggy Pirates has a vaguely soaring posture. As the second batch of cadres to join, if they can step on the veteran cadres, their vested interests in the future will definitely explode. But if the target of this suppression is the No. 2 figure in the pirates, a little carelessness will put him in a dilemma like he is now. If that's the case, I'm afraid I'll have to find someone again. Miss Buggin pondered in his heart. The violent reaction of everyone, especially Buggy, made Mr. 3 quite surprised. The moment they stared at each other, a huge exchange of information burst out. Buggy. Look what, you fucking keep talking. Mr. 3. You little base, aw no, you little Buggy. When did you become so hard-hearted, that Kaido couldn't eat and walk around? Buggy. What's there to be afraid of? When the sky is falling, Hancock's old sand is against it, and it can't stand it, and Hawkeye can't stand it. It can't stand it. This time is enough for us to escape. Mr. 3 laughs dumbly. I thought you suddenly felt that you could do it. The rest of the veteran cadres who received the eye waves looked puzzled. 3, don't you think so? Cough cough. Mr. 3 coughed a few times to break the communication. Although he was able to make Miss Buggin lose face, but now it seems that it is not necessary, it will only waste time and saliva. Actually, Doflamingo is just one purpose of attacking the advancing city. There are things that are worth as much as Doflamingo in the forces behind him. Oh? Something of the same value as Doflamingo? Everyone in the conference room suddenly became interested. With a weird smile on the corner of Mr. 3's mouth, he held up a pair of goggles and explained, when farmers harvest leeks, they usually don't uproot them, but take the ends and leave the roots until the leeks grow new shoots. Harvest again for maximum profit. It was obviously a sentence that could not be beaten by the advancing city, Doflamingo, and the underground forces, but the moment he said it, he succeeded in making everyone's pupils shrink. Ha ha ha. Cutting leeks? I didn't expect you to have such a novel idea, Mr. 3. Crocodile, biting a cigar, didn't hold back, he raised his head and laughed. Interesting metaphor. Hawkeye and Hancock didn't have much expressions on their faces. Mom, are there leaks in places like Pushin City? Can this thing make a lot of money from robbery? Weevil's wide eyes were filled with great doubts. Miss Buggin didn't answer with a cold face. Even she, after listening to Mr. 3's metaphor about leak, had to admit that it was indeed something that did not lose the value of Doflamingo. If it goes well, maybe a Buggy Express mercenary organization will be formed. This is a super violent money-making machine in an era of wars and chaos. This is evident from the development of the Clown Buggy Pirates in the past 2 years. At this point, all the participants were no longer skeptical about breaking into the advanced city to rescue Doflamingo. Then, what about the specific plan? Pushing the city is not something that can be easily broken by brute force. Crocodile, who knew the inner structure of the push city, asked aloud. I already have a rough plan in mind for this. Mr. 3 paused for a moment and said in a deep voice, but before that, we need to do something that can make the Navy devastated, distract them from their energy and layout, so that they can't mobilize troops to support the advanced city in the first place. If all the people here are trustworthy, it would not hurt to explain in advance the strategy of attacking the advanced city to rescue Doflamingo, but there is still the sinister and cunning Miss Buggin here, so you have to take precautions. Crocodile spit out a smoke ring, and said slowly, what makes the Navy feel a headache and troublesome thing? This is not very easy to think. Mr. 3 nodded without denying. That's why we need to collect everyone's opinions. Regarding this matter, in fact, he has been thinking about it a long time ago. Although there are several plans, they will not really make the Navy overwhelmed. After all, they are the well-deserved kings in this sea. After Mr. 3 finished speaking, the meeting room fell silent again. The difficulty of this kind of thing is really not small. Can't start another top war like the 2-year Whitebeard did? Cough cough. Buggy in the main seat coughed heavily, and a very confident expression appeared on the face of the raised clown. He has always been insidious and cunning, and it is obvious that he has a lot of ideas for doing things. Hee, you are just like that, Mr. 3, I have to be Captain Buggy at the critical moment. Isn't it a headache for the Navy headquarters? What's so difficult about it? After successfully attracting the audience's attention, Buggy moistened his throat and prepared to speak. At this moment, there was an extremely loud noise from outside the conference room. Immediately after, the door of the conference room was pushed open by a group of younger brothers. Holding the latest newspaper in their hands, their faces were full of extreme excitement and joy, and some people couldn't help trembling all over. Not good, Captain Buggy. Not good, oh no, great, Captain Buggy. Today's latest news, the Straw Hat Boys, together with Kid and Luo, and the Ghost Island of the Kingdom of Harmony, seized the home of the Beast Pirates, and completely defeated the alliance of the 4 Emperors, Kaido and the 4 Emperors. Of course, that's not the point. The point is you, great and holy King Buggy, the man who brings light to the whole world. You successfully replaced the position of Kaido's mother, made public by the world government, and became the new emperor of the sea. As soon as the trembling voice fell, the audience fell into a dead silence again. Wait, if I remember correctly, what did Buggy say about Kaido? Is this domineering? Miss Buggin, Weevil, Silent, Hancock, Crocodile, Hawkeye, Alvida and other veteran cadres. Shocked. Mr. 3 and Buggy, who jumped up from their seats and hugged tightly. Ha! Ah ha 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 ha. I have now ascended the throne of the 4 emperors, and in a few years, the Pirate King will be at his fingertips, ha ha ha. In the conference room, Buggy stepped directly on the table, grabbed the newspaper handed over by the younger brothers, and laughed wildly and arrogantly. Recalling that when he first became Qiwuhai, he once made up his mind to become the 4 emperors, and Buggy couldn't help being excited. The body hidden in the Dahongpao was torn apart, and the red robe was stretched to the extreme, making him look quite tall and mighty at this moment. How many years have passed since the dissolution of the Roger Pirates? He finally climbed up a little bit from the bottom of the pirates, successfully ascended the throne of the world, stood at the top of the world like Shanks, and became the emperor of the sea recognized by the world government. For him, who has never dealt with Shanks, this is simply a dream scene. Now his status is no less than that of Shanks, because the cover photos of the two of them appear in the same position. Captain Buggy, following you is really the best choice of our lives. Idiot. Now I want to call Captain Buggy of the 4 Emperors. Oh, Captain Buggy of the 4 Emperors. Stop for a moment, someone fainted. Doctor, is there a doctor? Oh, I'm a doctor myself. Forget it, Captain Buggy. I will swear to follow in your footsteps until the sea dies. The younger brothers below were very cooperative, shaking with excitement, and some even fainted from a brain hemorrhage on the spot, which was even crazier than Buggy. Buggy is getting sick again. Under the conference table, looking at Buggy who floated into the sky, Arita and other veteran cadres put their hands on their foreheads, quite speechless. The reason why the world government has positioned you as the 4 emperors is obviously because of the Eagle-Eyed Alliance and the joining of Hancock and the others. What does it have to do with you, Captain Buggy? Also One Piece, Ball, can you just keep daydreaming like this, pee and wake up like you are? But then again, they looked down at the photo of the new 4 emperors printed on the newspaper in their hands. In one corner, Buggy stuck his tongue out of his mouth, his eyes were fierce and cruel, and the deep clown makeup on his face exuded a breathtaking visual impact. Against the background of the black beard and red hair, from the photos alone, there is really a kind of even-handed rivalry in the world. Thinking of this, several people sighed for a while, like a dream. I didn't expect that they, who were still worried about the deprivation of the privileges of Qiwuhai a few days ago, are now officials of the Four Emperors. If this was released before, it would be impossible to have such an illusion. Beside him, Mr. 3 quietly stared at the contents of the newspaper. After being shocked, I was not too surprised that Buggy would be designated as the fourth emperor. After all, this was to be expected, but it came a little suddenly. What interested him even more was actually how Luffy, after awakening Nika, defeated Kaido. Hehe, the Emperor of the Sea, it's interesting. Crocodile spread the newspaper in his hand, and a deep smile appeared on his face with a scary seam. If the pirate group where he lives in Crocodile cannot even win this title, it will be even more embarrassing. It's the Straw Hat Boy. What is the origin? The old sand eyeballs turned slightly, and Buggy from the newspaper landed on Monkey D. Luffy. When he was in Alabasta, he was a kid who couldn't even be domineering, but now, even Kaido is no match for him. Even Crocodile, who has seen countless strong winds and waves, seems a little messy at this moment. You must know that more than 2 years have passed since the Alabasta incident. Compared to Crocodile's shock to the Straw Hat Boy, Hawkeye, who was sitting opposite, frowned slightly, paying more attention to the content of the news. Judging from the text information above, the world government or the news agency put him together with Hancock, Crocodile and Weevil, and seemed to mistake him for joining the Buggy the Clown pirates. Forget it, it won't affect me anyway. In the end, after sighing lightly, Hawkeye finally gave up the idea of correcting to the world. He disdains such trivial matters, and, looking at Buggy the Clown and Mr. 3, Hawkeye's immobile pupils flickered faintly. After seeing Buggy the Clown's terrifying power that gathers strong men, and Mr. 3's far-reaching daring and special aura, he suddenly became interested and wanted to stay here temporarily. See with your own eyes how far this fate-blessed clown Buggy pirates can go. The Four Emperors pirates, he. Miss Buggins stared at the newspaper and let out a strange smile. With this name, if you want to harvest money in the future, it's not too simple. It was not until this time that she realized that joining the Buggy pirates was a really good choice. The gloomy and sharp laughter suddenly attracted the attention of Buggy, who had risen in the air. I saw this guy who had floated to an unknown place with a condensed gaze, and manipulated his head to bring Da Hongpao to miss. Isn't there an old woman who saw the content of the newspaper? Kaido, a mere beast, I have never put him in his eyes from beginning to end. Remember what I said just now. He must have his house searched with a bad face. If I didn't foresee a corner of the future, would I say such baseless things? Ahaha, this is Lao Su. Buggy the Clown of the Four Emperors is terrifying and domineering. Buggy suddenly opened his split arms and stretched the Dahongpao to an incomparably huge size again. Mr. 3 looked up, and the arrogant and smug expression was very similar to the scene where he guessed the plot of One Piece and then showed off with his good friends. This is the domineering of the lucky color. Captain, you are amazing. Although Miss Buggin had considerable doubts about Buggy's domineering, but the facts were in front of her eyes, no matter how she didn't believe it, she was convinced. Ha, isn't that for sure? I am now the fourth emperor. Seeing that Miss Buggin's old face was as uncomfortable as constipation, Buggy laughed even more. Isn't it the one who made you fucking look for the third child just now? Okay, Captain Buggy, let's continue with the topic that gave the Navy a headache. After reading the news, Mr. 3 interrupted Buggy's complacence and said solemnly, isn't the mere four emperors just a phased goal that we agreed on a long time ago? Let this guy continue to be so complacent. I am afraid that Hancock and Crocodile, who were finally recruited, will be scared to run away with the pirate ship overnight. A kind of veteran cadre such as Arita, who was very worried, just started, and thought he saw calmness in Mr. 3, but when he heard the phrase, four emperors in a mere fact, his heart became a lot colder. The third brother, why are you floating along? However, they didn't know that this was indeed a simple truth for Mr. 3, whose system was arrogant and domineering. I know, but before that, Buggy, who calmed down a little, returned to his seat, tidied up his red robe, and looked back at the cheering younger brothers behind him. The younger brothers who got the attention of God, were stunned for a moment, and they quieted down at an ultra-fast speed of tenths of a second, drooling repeatedly, extremely nervous. Let me understand first, my bounty for becoming the Empress of the Four Emperors. Buggy, whose eyes were squinted into a crescent shape, was scrubbing his stubble. Thinking of Shank's bounty of more than 40 billion, he naturally became competitive. If the amount given by the world government is too low, don't blame Lao Tzu for using the same brutal means to make them feel the horror from the clown emperor Buggy.
The words fell, and the little brothers who had been quiet for a few seconds suddenly exploded again.
Ah, Captain Buggy of the Four Emperors, what did you say? The same means, do you say? The younger brothers who thought of something turned pale with fright, and the pupils in their eye sockets lost focus in an instant. Do you want a bounty on the head of the Navy? My God, what kind of man is he to have such an earth-shattering and terrifying aura of offering a bounty to the Navy? It's terrifying. Captain Buggy, you are really terrifying. Listening to the strange brain circuits of the younger brothers, Buggy, who was full of pride, was dumbfounded on the spot, and his eyes were like copper bells. Asshole. No matter what, there must be a limit to brain supplementation, okay? The same brutal method that Lao Tzu said is like catching pirates in the Navy, increasing your bounty by constantly attacking the Navy. God is offering a bounty to the Navy, is I so idle? Taking your own money to offend the Navy and rewarding other pirates who are enemies, what kind of joke are you making? Hey, you. Buggy was about to turn back to educate these ignorant younger brothers, but he didn't expect to be interrupted by Mr. 3. So that's the case, is this the plan you were trying to talk about to make the Navy devastated? It's really thoughtful genius logic, my Captain Buggy. Aw. Looking at Mr. 3 with one hand holding his glasses, the corner of his mouth slightly raised, Buggy scratched his head for no apparent reason. The cute eyes and frozen expression perfectly explain his confusion at this moment. Asterisk? Asterisk. A plan to frustrate the Navy. Did I just say that by broadcasting to the world by urinating on a Kainu's avatar, it's a good idea to make them lose face? I don't seem to have. Buggy. Well, the third one, I actually. Is there a reward for the Navy? Buggy, your idea is really beyond my expectations. There was a frenzy in Crocodile's deep eyes. I don't know if he saw Buggy's true thoughts, or if he really admired Buggy's strategy. In any case, the operation of offering a bounty to the Navy is really amazing to the arrogant Crocodile. Buggy. Crocodile, why even you? With such a simple operation, it is a good idea to completely reverse the situation between the Navy and the pirates, and let the pirates who are difficult to unite form a united front in a sense. Hancock's eyes were firm, and he also affirmed Buggy's strategy. Buggy. United front or something. Interesting, so it seems that it's not entirely unreasonable that you can gather such a group of outrageous guys around you, Buggy. Even Hawkeye, who has always been taciturn, gave a very high praise. Hearing the people's high evaluation of himself, Buggy was stunned for a moment, and then he was no longer confused. The expression on his face covered with clown makeup changed at a speed visible to the naked eye, returning to the arrogant and domineering look at the beginning. Ahahaha. Damn, you two are so sharp, how can I be embarrassed to continue to pretend? Buggy's eyes widened. Yes, this uncle's strategy is to make the ***** Navy feel the endless horror of being missed by countless pirates by offering a bounty to the Navy all over the world. As soon as the pretentious words were finished, Buggy immediately regretted his bowels. Wait, if you really want to do this, then my Buggy Express must not go bankrupt on the spot. Mr. 3, who was sitting next to him, moved his eyes slightly, and saw through the faint sadness beneath this savage and wanton appearance. With many thoughts in his heart, he raised his head and winked at the excited younger brothers not far away. Although the younger brothers were reluctant to leave the radiant range shrouded in God for a moment, this was what the third brother meant after all, so they naturally did not dare to go against it, so they could only turn around and leave with a face full of reluctance. The exit of the atmosphere group restored the quietness of the dimly lit conference room. So, Mr. 3 said to Buggy along the topic just now, Captain, I've already said this, then I'll be a little bolder and guess what you think. If you guessed correctly, our purpose is not really to reward the Navy, but to distract our attention and pave the way for the invasion of the advancing city, right? The moment he met Mr. 3's eyes, Buggy understood what he meant, and immediately pretended to be inscrutable, nodded and said, That's right, let's continue to guess, I have a detailed plan in my heart. Tacit cooperation. Mr. 3 smiled indifferently, sorted out his thoughts a little and said slowly, since the real purpose is to advance the city, not to spend a lot of money to completely annoy the Navy. Then, when issuing the naval bounty order, we only need to increase the bounty to a level that is not in line with their strength, and dispel the idea of some pirates being arrested. However, in order to make all the generals of the Navy have a sense of crisis on their backs, and make the Navy headquarters feel a lot of headaches, it is possible to make some Navy's bounties far higher than their own strength, preferably some guys who use their power and identity to do evil things. There is no doubt that there is no clear concept of good and evil in One Piece. The evil pirate can be a pure-blooded adventurer, and the righteous navy can also be the executioner who kills the civilians. The world view is chaotic and distorted. This is an opportunity. In response to the evil navy, or to put it in a more righteous way, using the name of the navy to reward the people has a very important role, that is, to win the hearts of the people. Since the ultimate goal of the clown buggy pirates is to stand on the top of the world and overthrow the rule of the dragons, to be determined, it is extremely necessary to expand the influence of the buggy pirates and gather public opinion to increase their prestige. After all, the power of a single pirate group is impossible to compete with the entire world. This is exactly the same starting point as Mr. Three's intention to use the pirate flag to guard the three-pillar roundabout and make it a firm belief of the residents of the three-pillar roundabout. And this is also the reason why Mr. Three was shocked because of Buggy's equal means. In a short sentence, not only does it break the difficult problem of affecting the Navy's military heart, but it also indirectly has the effect of gathering people's hearts. It's like killing two birds with one stone. Although it is an inadvertent intention, it is better than intention. This guy Buggy is really a great god, who can bring unexpected surprises. Cough, cough, cough. After listening to Mr. Three's double reward for the Navy, Buggy sucked back the two snots hanging under the red nose. After experiencing a lot of shocking inner activities, he calmly stroked his chin, nodded thoughtfully, and sighed. As expected of you, San, you actually speculated on Lao Tzu's thoughts, said the same, everyone. He turned to look at the people at the conference table, and said in a pretentious manner, that's it. What Three said is almost the same as the strategy and plan I thought. I don't think you have any opinions on things like offering a bounty to the Navy, right? The eagle-eyed crocodile hand cook, including Miss Buggan, nodded lightly and acquiesced to this wonderful strategy. I don't have much opinion, but... Crocodile looked at Buggy and asked in a deep voice, what name should we use to issue a Navy wanted notice? No matter how you think about it, it is quite strange to issue a bounty order with the Clown Buggy Pirates or Buggy Express. How can a pirate issue a bounty to a pirate? Moreover, the credibility and execution are very low, and it is difficult to reach the point where the Navy is completely overwhelmed. What Crocodile said makes sense. Mr. Three nodded, took Crocodile's words and said, at the same time, as the greatest respect for the ally, Brother Eagle Eye, I don't think so. How about we set up a brand new organization? He turned to look at Buggy, the captain. It is more appropriate for him to decide on the establishment of a new organization. Buggy blinked and looked around. For a while he didn't have a good idea for the name of the new organization. Being stared at by so many people, he couldn't make himself behave too badly, so he turned his head and threw the question back to Crocodile. Crocodile, what are your thoughts? Crocodile pondered for a few seconds, but did not shirk. He glanced at the black cross behind Hawkeye, and remembered the new trade union he planned to set up before, and said solemnly, since it is a new organization established with the Hawkeye Alliance, then named it as Cross Union. How? In the afternoon, at the base of the World Economic News, the office of President Morgan's. President, in an emergency, the intelligence specialist from the Buggy Pirates contacted us. The younger brother hurried in to report. Because Buggy used to do live broadcasts of the war on the top, Buggy Express has a very good relationship with the news of the world in the past 2 years, and the two sides have cooperated in many fields. Morgans, who was drinking tea calmly on the sofa, slowly put down his teacup, his sharp eyes filled with pride. The news came quite quickly. Tell me, how did that guy Buggy thank me for making a big fuss about the news and help them build momentum and attract people? The younger brother was a little surprised. Well, that's not the case. Oh? Morgans asked suspiciously. The younger brother quickly replied. They just sent a lot of pictures and said they want us to help publish them in the next issue of the newspaper. Reject them. Morgans refused without thinking. Forget it normally. Now all the energy of their newspaper office is on printing and delivering the news of the 2 new 4 emperors. How can there be extra effort to deal with the request of Buggy, a guy who doesn't even understand gratitude? But the president, the photos they gave, I feel, are very valuable for reporting. They are all bounties for admirals. Hee, are you a stupid pig? There are only a few bounty lists, how can you compare? Wait, what are you talking about? As Morgan spoke, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. When he grabbed the photo from his younger brother's hand, he saw his calm and deep eyes pop out of his sockets, and in his open mouth, his frightened tongue swayed like a rattle. The Crusaders, offering a bounty to the Navy, ah ha 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 ha. Even the well-informed Morgans couldn't help laughing with excitement after reading the information passed by the buggy pirates. Is this era really about to usher in a drastic change? This guy Buggy the Clown has really delivered a big news that is not inferior to the new 4 emperors. Excitedly, he waved his wings and arms, and decisively issued an order: do your best to free up some resources to print these bounty lists as tomorrow's news headlines. Yes. The deep sea prison, the advanced city, the 6th level prison with dark light. Doflamingo was still locked in a single cell by countless thick chains. With his back against the cold and damp prison walls, he spread his legs and sat on the ground in an extremely arrogant posture. A new newspaper was grasped in his hand, and under his increasing force, it gradually folded and deformed. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Doflamingo suddenly crumpled the newspaper in his hand and let out a sharp, penetrating laugh. After a long time, he stopped laughing and rolled his eyes, landing on Magellan outside the prison fence. Straw Hat Kidro defeated Mama Kaido, Hawkeye and Crocodile joined the buggy clown pirates? Magellan, how dare you show me such a fake newspaper? Are you a fucking fool? It's getting more and more outrageous every day. Are you going to tell me tomorrow that the pirates outside have started offering bounties to the Navy? Huh? In the face of Doflamingo crazy and repeated questions, Magellan remained silent with a cold face. After a meal, with a vicious poof sound, a stinky fart carrying a purple poisonous mist spewed out. Doflamingo exploded on the spot. Grass, Magellan, I will kill you sooner or later. What responded to him was 3 consecutive sounds after silence. Looking at Magellan, a guy who can't get in the oil and salt, Doflamingo is completely desperate, leaning against the wall and staring gloomily at the gloomy and dim ceiling. The fall of the old era, the birth of a new era, the world has been turned upside down. I really want to go out, in this chaotic era, to stir up the situation. Damn Straw Hat Boy. 3-pillar roundabout, a island town port. Hehe. The clown buggy pirates are just an ordinary pirate group that has been deprived of the rights of the 7 Qiwuhai. What's there to be afraid of? The man in the blood-red cloak waved the giant hammer in his hand and smashed all the guards guarding the port into the air, breaking through the line of defense that was nothing to him. This fierce-looking pirate captain is an ally of Sogabe who was killed by Ayasha before, and a big pirate with a bounty of more than 100 million. Dare to kill my most important ally, and taking an island to compensate is a matter of course? Said to be filled with righteous indignation, but did not see any sadness in the man's greedy eyes. The world of pirates is cruel and ruthless. All he did was to occupy the 3-pillar roundabout on the grounds of revenge for his allies. In the town, listening to the roaring artillery fire and the screams of the port, the residents of the 3-pillar roundabout island fell into panic, and shivered as they watched the pirates walking slowly from the end of the street. What to do, what to do, who should we ask to fight the pirates? Didn't the old man in the city say that the clown buggy pirate flag is useful? Those damn pirates in the port are not afraid at all. It would be nice if Colonel Soyanyolo was here. Can we really count on that flag? The little girl Lu Fei was also in the crowd. Compared with the anxiety and fear of the adults around, the little guy's delicate and lovely face showed no signs of fear at all. Uncle, Auntie, don't be afraid. The pirate flag of the 3rd uncle will definitely protect us. Uncle, he is a pirate hero, he will definitely not lie. Lu Fei waved her fists, a firm look flashing in her big watery eyes. It's a pity that the despairing adults around don't care. They, who have always been protected by the Navy, don't think that a broken flag can protect them at all. As the brutal pirates arrived at the entrance of the town, all the residents were so frightened that their faces paled and their legs fell to the ground. In desperation, I saw a pirate younger brother scrambling from the port and handing the newspaper in his hand to the leading pirate captain. The pirate captain took the newspaper, and the moment he saw the content, his fierce and tyrannical expression was suddenly stunned, replaced by thick horror. He raised his head and glanced at the pirate flag hanging at the highest point in the town, as if he had seen some ferocious ghost. Without the slightest hesitation, he turned around and ran with his younger brothers, and in the blink of an eye, he escaped the port by boat. The residents who were still in despair just now, look at me, I look at you, dumbfounded and at a loss. Ha ha ha. Look, look, the pirates are scared away. With a 3-character hairstyle, Xiao Lufei stood on tiptoe, put out her fat little hand on her forehead, glanced at the direction in which the pirates were fleeing, and then looked back at the pirate flag flying high, smiling very much happy. With the warm and comfortable sea breeze blowing head on, the seeds of faith sprouted from the hearts of the residents of the 3-pillar roundabout, nourished by the crisp and loud laughter of the little girl. Clown buggy pirate flag, Really useful. Kalai Bali is full of green hills. A bunch of unique 3-character hairstyles fluttered freely in the refreshing sea breeze, and Mr. 3 stood on the edge of the hill. On the cliff face of the hill, you can see the remains of a human-shaped hole. That is the shape of Vice Admiral Steers of the Navy headquarters. Mr. 3 looked out at the vast expanse of the sea outside the island, and could vaguely see the newspaper delivery seagull flapping its wings vigorously, continuing to deliver newspapers to the world. With the character of an old newsman of Morgan's, the matter of offering a bounty to the Navy is estimated to be seen tomorrow at the earliest. Thinking that the whole world will tremble in this big news that subverts common sense, Mr. 3 can't help but feel a burst of anticipation. In the morning meeting, they not only initially set a bounty list for some of the Navy, but also determined the positions and divisions of the newly established cross-union. Among them, as the captain of the Clown Buggy Pirates, Buggy is undoubtedly the president of the Cross Guild. Because Hawkeye is in an alliance relationship and is alone, he took up the idle position of honorary president and will help when the cross-union faces a crisis. Correspondingly, the Crusaders should stand in the front and help Hawkeye solve many unnecessary troubles such as being chased and harassed by the Navy. Under the president and honorary president, there are 4 tentative teams. The captain of the first team and the general staff of the Cross Trade Union, Mr. 3, led the veteran cadres such as Arita Cabbage to coordinate the Buggy Express mercenary organization. The captain of the 2nd Division and the captain of the Aid Force, Boya Hancock, led the former 9 Snake Pirates to the present 9 Snakes, guarding the Brixing Island as a buffer zone. The captain of the 3rd Division and the captain of the Intelligence Force, Crocodile, is responsible for underground intelligence collection and the delivery of naval bounties. Captain of the 4th Division and captain of the Combat Force, Edward Weevil, is responsible for wandering the New World and distracting the Navy. Since then, the new organization of the Cross Trade Union has begun to take shape, and will grow and develop with the continuous recruitment of strong men. In the end, it will definitely become a powerful force that even the Navy headquarters and the world government are afraid of. From now on, I can be considered to be standing on the stage of the times completely, and I can't be as wretched as before and develop. Recalling that when he first crossed, and he still had to rely on the Buggy Pirates who were standing in front of many younger brothers, Mr. 3 couldn't help but let out a sigh. It is really not easy to push the pirates to the position of the 4 emperors in such a short period of time. A confident and indifferent smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Although the process is not as simple and easy as the outside world has seen, but in any case, his own strength has been greatly improved, and the comprehensive combat power of the Buggy Pirates is enough to gain a firm foothold under the torrent of the turbulent times. Step by step, steady growth, and overall planning are the necessary preparations for starting the main line of the 4 emperors' hegemony. Brother 3. Just when Mr. 3's heart was surging, a respectful and elegant female voice suddenly came from behind. How about Ayasha? Have you sensed Miss Buggin's malice? Mr. 3 turned his head and looked at Ayasha, who was dressed in black and valiantly. Invasion of the advanced city to rescue Ming is very important. If you are not careful, you will be surrounded and suppressed by the naval headquarters. The risk factor is not too high. So, Mr. 3 has to make sure the news doesn't leak. Hawk-eyed Hancock and Crocodile's temperaments are right there. They are arrogant and arrogant. But Miss Buggin, who is above the interests, is not necessarily. Knowing the next action target of the Crusaders, she may turn around and choose to cooperate with the Navy and sell them all. If she is smart enough, she should know that the interests of staying in the Buggy Pirates will be greater. In this case, as long as he realizes that Miss Buggin has such an idea, even if it is just a thought, Mr. 3 will not hesitate to give up the powerful combat power of Weevil, and directly keep Miss Buggin in Kalai Bali forever. In fact, when he decided to recruit Weevil, his more purpose was just to get a wave of system rewards, and then use Weevil's name to attract more powerhouses if he didn't encounter Ayasha, who is a malicious fruit person. Brother 3. I stared at that stinky old woman during the entire meeting. Except for her strong malice when she targeted you, I didn't feel it at other times. Thinking that Miss Buggin dared to be so rude to Brother 3, Ayasha's azure blue pupils flashed a hint of coldness. How about Brother 3, can you kill her now? Mr. 3 put his hands behind his back and turned to look at the sea and the sky in the distance. Since she has no malice towards the Buggy Pirates now, she should keep it for now and deal with it after she has completely transformed Weevil. Speaking of which, Mr. 3 asked curiously, how long will it take to permanently eliminate Weevil's malice towards us and increase his malice towards Miss Buggin to the point of becoming enemies with your fruit ability? Hearing that the stinky old witch cannot be beheaded for the time being, Ayasha's pretty and glamorous face showed disappointment without concealment, but she still answered seriously. Brother 3, it's hard for my fruit ability to work on a powerhouse of that level, but fortunately there is a flaw in the IQ of the stupid donkey, and without being noticed, he should be able to completely erase him in about a month. Malicious. A month. Mr. 3 pondered for a while. Fortunately, it's not too long. After finishing the rather serious topic of Miss Buggin, he turned around and asked Ayasha, Ayasha, do you want to go to Breaksing Island with me later? Ayasha naturally did not hesitate at all, and answered solemnly and seriously, I am willing to follow your footsteps unswervingly. When the words fell, she raised her eyes and glanced at Mr. 3 secretly. After not seeing a particularly heavy expression, she asked weakly, that third brother, where is Breaksing Island? Where are we going and what are we going to do? Mr. 3 was stunned at the time. Co-authoring this product without knowing anything and agreeing with it? Take you there, stay there to help count the money, and then I'll be back first.
Oh, I'm very happy, but third brother, I'm not very good at arithmetic. It's easy to mess up if I count too much money.
Mr. 3. Silent. Is there any help for this girl? Boom. With a ruthless expression on his face, he raised his hand and knocked on Ayasha's cute head. I'm sure it's not really asking you to count the money. Didn't it say at the meeting that Breaksing Island is a buffer island near Kalai Bali? I'm going over there to ask Mr. Boya to ask him about the domineering and domineering. I'm so sorry. Ayasha covered her head and said, I was staring at that stinky old witch the whole time. Even if I had extra time, I kept putting it on you, brother 3, and didn't notice the content of the meeting. Next time I will definitely pay attention. Looking at the panicked look of this guy, Mr. 3 sighed heavily, but he couldn't bear to continue complaining after all. Little fangirl or something, from a certain point of view, it is really tricky. Forget it, let's go. He waved his hand, and turned away with an apologetic Ayasha. But I never thought that as soon as I got down the hill, I met Crocodile who also wanted to come up to blow the sea breeze. The first time they met Crocodile, Mr. 3 couldn't help but have a sinister smile on the corner of his mouth. He stepped forward and joked aloud. Hey, old 3, the captain of the 3rd Division, it's such a coincidence that we met here. Crocodile, biting a cigar, turned his eyes and started to say, Desert King Kong Sword. Mr. 3. PFFT, Kae Bali, on the coast of the Outer Banks, where a conflict broke out between the buggy pirates and the elite steers a few days ago. Although after several days of ebb and flow, the devastated coast of the Bund has regained some smoothness, but the pits and pits after the war are left here like pimples, and it will take a long time to restore their original appearance. At this time, in a certain beach pothole, Mr. 3, who was blasted away by a desert diamond sword from Crocodile, was squatting on it. Feeling the soft and comfortable touch under his body, Mr. 3 subconsciously raised his hand and touched it, just in a pile of sea sand, and touched something round and slightly greasy. Although I don't know what happened, thanks to this stuff, I didn't get a bruised face. Mr. 3 just sat on the soft thing buried by the sea sand, looked up at Crocodile who was smoking a cigar on the hill in the distance, and sighed heavily. Crocodile is as hot as ever, there's nothing wrong with the squad leader calling the 3rd child. It seems that there is a long way to go in order to complete the goal of the branch line that he called the 3rd brother. Just as he was sighing, suddenly, the sea sand under him wriggled. As if some strange animal was about to break out of the ground. The sensed Mr. 3 lowered his head and stared at the sea sand under him with his eyes open, and small sparks appeared on his head with his 3-character hairstyle. The unknown is terrifying. Although he is now a strong man who can barely draw Crocodile, the world of pirates is full of strange things. For mysterious creatures that have not yet seen the whole picture, he still needs to maintain the highest vigilance, so as not to commit a ship in the gutter. Just under Mr. 3's heightened vigilance, with a puff, a strange creature suddenly sprang out of the sea sand. It turned out to be a white monster that looked very much like a human palm. Immediately after that, the sea sand under Mr. 3 shook violently, as if some weirder monster was about to break out of the sand. Mr. 3 didn't dare to be careless, he quickly stood up and jumped away, and at the same time raised his arm that spewed out a lot of fluid candles, and threw it into the bunker without hesitation. Bastard Galtino, your motherfucker actually attacked Lao Su? A human-shaped head wearing a pirate hat slammed out of the sand pit, and Buggy with a red nose blazed in his eyes, roaring in anger, I won't woo-woo today. Before he could finish speaking, a thick and warm gray-white candle flew in and blocked his mouth. Gollum. The liquid candle slid down Buggy's throat, overflowing from under his smooth neck, and dripping onto the ground. Fuck. Buggy? Why are you here? After recognizing Buggy, Mr. 3 looked surprised and asked suspiciously, "What about the mysterious creature I sat in the sandpit just now?" "What a fucking creature, that's the fucking Lao Su." The sandpit surged, and countless body stumps floated towards Buggy's head with quicksand, together with the initial palm monster, assembled in midair and finally combined into a complete Buggy appearance. As soon as his body recovered, Buggy immediately rushed to Mr. 3 and slapped the clown face covered in sand. "Galdino, you must be doing it on purpose. Knowing that I'm blowing the sea breeze here, I'm just going to make a sneak attack, right?" Mr. 3 raised his head and pushed Buggy's head away a little bit, knowing that he was wrong, with an apologetic smile on his mouth. Sorry, Buggy, I was beaten up here by the crocodilina bastard. I didn't know you happened to be standing here. It's here." "Huh?" Buggy was displeased and asked a question of distrust. "If you don't believe me, ask Ayasha. Look over the hill, crocodile is still there." Mr. 3 pointed from the back. Hearing this, Buggy turned his head suspiciously, and sure enough, he saw Ayasha, who came anxiously. "Hey, Commissioner Kid, is what Galtino said true?" "Really, Captain Buggy, I can testify." Ayasha naturally couldn't backstab Brother 3, and nodded heavily. Having said that, Buggy was still a little disbelieving, and looked up at the direction of the hill again. After seeing Crocodile in a coat standing there smoking a cigar with a displeased face, he reluctantly believed what Mr. 3 said. "It's unlucky for me," he snorted indignantly. "Speaking of which, Buggy, why are you standing in a daze like this?" Mr. 3 noticed something was wrong. At this time, God Buggy, who has just become the 4 emperors, shouldn't he stay in the base camp and brag about it with his younger brothers? Buggy, who had eaten the boring loss, instantly gave birth to a mouth of serrated teeth, and scolded. "I can't feel the gentle sea breeze like an old mother here, can't you? Do you have any opinions?" Mr. 3 calmly wiped the saliva from his face, stared at Buggy calmly, and did not speak. Buggy was uncomfortable with this look, and turned his head to look elsewhere. After being silent for a few seconds, he looked dazed and sighed. "Old Third, do you think our improvement speed will be too fast, now we are the 4th emperor?" As an intern on the ship of the original One Piece, Buggy is very aware of the energy possessed by the title of the 4 emperors, and he can call the wind and call the rain on this sea. But at the same time, it will also bring many unpredictable challenges and risks. This is the sinister intention of the world government. After guessing that their purpose is to gather strong men like the new and old Shicibukai, it is estimated that the Buggy pirates will be positioned as the 4 emperors. In this way, those powerful pirates who coveted the throne of the 4 emperors will continue to challenge and attack them. The normal situation should be like this, but what the world government did not expect at all was that the misleading news that they wanted to make the Buggy pirates the target of public criticism was secretly modified by Morgan's news agency into positive recruitment information, which will definitely lead to the next. More and more powerhouses are joining the Buggy pirates. I really owe that Birdman a big favor to Morgan's. Buggy sighed inwardly. It's rare to see the always arrogant god Buggy showing such an expression. Mr. 3 snorted and joked. Isn't the 4 emperors the goal you have always pursued? It looks like this now, but it doesn't look like the redhead who dared to spit out angrily. The base of the base is long. Buggy immediately retorted. Bastard, suddenly standing in such a high position, I would be a ghost if I wasn't afraid at all. And only in front of old brothers like Mr. 3 and Mochi Kabaji will he reveal his true heart. Mr. 3 looked at Buggy, who was so attentive, and remembered that this guy was angry at Miss Buggin at the meeting for himself, and he would not hesitate to bet the entire Buggy pirates, but also to express the decisiveness and toughness of Hard Kaido, and his mood changed inexplicably. Be comfortable. Don't worry, Captain Buggy, if it was just a few days ago that you became the 4th emperor because of luck and misunderstandings from the outside world, then from now on, with me, everything will change. Speaking of this, Mr. 3's pupils hidden under the goggles burst out with brilliance. Whether the 4 emperors are the world government, this world will be firmly in our hands sooner or later. Corresponding to Buggy's rare show of sincerity, it was the first time he mentioned his ambitions in front of others. Seemingly startled by these short and horrified words, Buggy stood there in a daze, his eyes fixed on Mr. 3. After a long time, he pointedly said, 3, you have really changed. Ha ha ha, maybe this is the symptom left over after awakening the domineering arrogance of the Overlord. Okay, you haven't changed, you're paranoid, and you're still very sick. Hey, Buggy, borrow your Dahongpao, what do you want? Although I don't know what Mr. 3 meant by suddenly saying this, Buggy didn't think much of it out of trust, and directly passed the corner of the Dahongpao with his broken palm through his ability to split. Mr. 3 stretched out his fingers and wiped the Dahongpao. What's that? Buggy frowned. Your booger. Mr. 3 continued to wipe gracefully until the filth was removed from his fingers. What did you say? Buggy couldn't believe his ears. Your booger. I accidentally buttoned it when I was sitting in the sand pit and touched your nose. Galdino, you asterisk asterisk asterisk. You know it's Lao Su who is buried below. PFF'd, ha ha ha, isn't this nonsense? With such a prominent red nose, even the blind can recognize it. Dare to talk about Lao Su's nose, go to hell. The clown splits the knife. Hee hee, just you. Candle wall, fractured and punched, candle iron fist.